you, this gal who grows up for a large part in Arkansas, attracted to country music, you become a country music singer and star. You are very involved in veterans charities. You're Christian. You went to a Christian university. You stood up for yourself without doing the liberal talking points there, made a record of what they were doing to you. You get a show on Rumble. I mean, this is like, basically your next step will be Fox News correspondent in the grand scheme of life. But for some reason, the Epstein thing gets blamed on you. And there's a lot of this on the internet. There are people with millions and millions of followers in posts that have been seen millions and millions of times accusing you of being a spy for Israel, mostly Mossad spy, could be other spies. We cut just one in soundbite form, but there's so much more. Here's just a sample.
Is the director of the FBI caught up in an Israeli honeypot operation? All right, here's the context. Quote, some social media users have wondered whether the FBI and the U.S. Justice Department's refusal to release the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients could have something to do with Alexis Wilkins, the 26-year-old girlfriend of 45-year-old FBI Director Kash Patel. This is what people online are pointing to, the fact that Patel's girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, works for PragerU, which is a media company that supposedly espouses American values, except for the fact that it is run by a former Israeli military intelligence officer. Now, I did a bunch of digging, and unfortunately, there's actually not a lot of public information to go off of in terms of Alexis Wilkins' background. She lived in England and Switzerland before settling in Fayetteville, Arkansas when she was 9. It also says that she attended College du Le Monde International School in Switzerland. Now, interestingly, ChatGPT is calling this a strange biographical gap in that she has no visible friend network or public high school college cohort interviews, which they say is unusual for a public figure in entertainment, and that if a Mossad asset were inserted early in life, these gaps would be precisely where you'd hide alternate history or handler training. Anyway, I'm not sure what's true or what's not true, but evidently these are, quote, classic elements used in honeypot operations: soft power, ideological alignment, and sexual emotional entanglement.
Okay. The only piece of that I can glean that is actually true is the CEO of PragerU is actually acknowledges on her bio that she served in military intelligence with the IDF. So she, the CEO of PragerU, has an affiliation, but there's nothing like that about you. So when this started coming out, were you shocked? I mean, do you think this is really basically just that you're with Kash?
I was shocked. I knew that, that Prager this is kind of something that I think people in the deep sides of the internet like to pick at, when they can't figure out what else is wrong. So some of it didn't surprise me when it first started coming up. I was like, all right, this looks like this is what they're focusing on today. But then to your point, Megyn, these posts got millions of views. And I could list all of the ways that this hurt me and my family, but some examples are the fact that people begin harassing you. People start doxing your family. People start, accusing you, just aside from all of the other stuff that's hurtful, the fact that I've dedicated myself to this movement, to good values, to speaking to children, to doing things that I thought were good, that were in line with my values, but also the fact that it's accusing me of manipulating the person that I'm with, that I love. That's a horrible accusation. And seeing this pop off on the internet, I think the initial ones actually didn't tag me. So it was very bizarre to kind of start to see this roll in on my Twitter and it not being or my ex, and it not being a good influx of what people were talking about. It was very surprising, yes.
Now, what did Kash say? Because it's easier to take the slings and arrows yourself than to see them come to your loved one.
Very, very similar to what he said. I think he said something similar even when he got confirmed. You can throw whatever you want at me, but don't. I think his example there was don't mess with the agents in the field. Don't mess with the people who have dedicated their lives to law enforcement. And it's honestly very similar. He's fine with people coming after him, printing things that make sense, don't make sense, whatever. Ask him the questions. But I think when it came to me, he was very frustrated that something that was limited to the governmental side, something that he's obviously, dealing with, something that transparently, and Megyn, this, I don't know anything about. That's not something that he's allowed to talk about. I have no awareness besides what everyone else is seeing, probably the same questions everyone else has. And so for that to be something that came up that put me into the line of fire, he was very unhappy, to say the least.
So he's been in the news a lot lately since the release of that 2-page memo, which was reportedly a joint effort between FBI and DOJ. And that's what Todd Blanche, the deputy at the DOJ, says, that there is no daylight between FBI and DOJ on it. But of course, there's been all sorts of reports, including my own reporting. And this is true, that on the Friday that this all broke, Dan Bongino did tell the administration it's either Pam Bondi or me. And the only reason he stayed is because he extracted assurances that more information would be released. But some of my audience has come back and said, whatever happened to it's her or me? No, that was true. He did say that, though he had second thoughts once the administration started to say, okay, well, we'll release some more. But I'm here to tell you there was daylight between the FBI and the DOJ on certain portions of that memo. I think that'll be proven. So how big was the cocktail that Kash needed that night? And do you think this has been tough on him? Because, this is his base too.
I think so. I think that it's hard when you see anyone you love being attacked for something that you're doing. I've encountered it on the smaller scale as I've been a public figure for long enough to see, people try to picket my, family, try and find people online. This is something that people do. Hence, it's funny referring back to the ChatGPT investigation that was held on the SOT you played. That there aren't any interviews of my friends. Well, there aren't any interviews of my friends because I don't want the internet to attack them. I think it's pretty sensical. But no, he's dedicated to the American people as he always has been. I think that when people get into government, they don't just, snap into something else. People have the same mission that they did on the campaign trail and during the time before they were in government, which is really all I can say on that. But I think that, ultimately, it's been hard to see me come into the line of fire for something he's already dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to see additional Epstein files released?
You know what? If people stop calling me a spy, absolutely.
Yeah, I can understand. For the record, I should ask you, are you a spy for any government?
Definitely not. That is a firm no on that front.
Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But don't forget, while they are moving mountains for the good of the nation, you've got your personal savings to worry about. And one of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification, particularly with gold, like from Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. And Birch was an advertiser on this show 12 months ago. If you had purchased then, you'd be 40% richer today. Now's the time. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by burying in record quantities. Global instability and tension is high, and Birch Gold makes owning physical gold so easy. Easily convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898, and Birch Gold is going to send you a free info kit on gold. Look into it, see if it's right for you. There's no obligation, just useful information to help you make a decision. With an A+ rating, with a Better Business Bureau, and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text MK to 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.